Hello, my name is Umar, and welcome to Life Size Voices. I am the founder of Life Size Publishing. We decided to launch Life Size Voices because, quite frankly, I love the people I work with. I love the people we're able to publish for, and we're able to share their stories. Today, I have a very, very special guest with us. He is an entrepreneur, an accessibility consultant, a speaker, and now the best-selling author of From Potential to Purpose, Marco Pasqua. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Marco, you and I go back a couple of months now. I think almost a year. And just for our
Yeah,
viewers,
no, it's been an incredible process. Like I can't believe how fast time has flown working with you and your team. It feels just like yesterday that you cold reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I hope that that really emphasizes to people who listen into this interview that always say yes to opportunities, always see what happens. You never know who's reaching out to you, and this opportunity where I took a chance on you cold reaching out to me has changed my life. So thanks.
thank you for giving us the opportunity to share your story, Marco. And I tell my team, I tell a lot of the people I work with that, like I said, I love the people I work with, but I do love some people a little bit more. And you fall on that end of the people I enjoyed working with. And, I do see us doing a lot more things together and sharing more stories. But Marco, for this micro podcast that we're doing, we're following a format that's value driven. Like I was telling you before the podcast, we want to avoid the fluff and we want to give our viewers and our readers, because this is also going to be turned into a newsletter, the opportunity to really gain as much value as possible from this 15 to 20-minute call that we're doing. I hope that's fine with you.
Oh, I love that. That's perfect. People want things in bite-sized chunks, and all I'm interested in is giving them those golden nuggets of insights and tools. So let's go.
Let's do it. So, Marco, first thing we call it the spark. The spark is essentially what inspired you to write this book, and was there a defining moment or personal experience that lit that fuse for you?
It's really interesting. Years ago, when I first got into the idea of becoming a professional speaker, I was all about visualization and doing vision boards and things like this. And I remember one of the very first things that I put on a vision board, my very first vision board, was a cutout from a magazine. And it said, "One day I will write a book." And I remember that the facilitator of that session said to me, "Oh, I think you're doing your vision board wrong." I said, "Why? What's wrong with what I just pasted here?" And she said, "You have the words one day. If you have the words one day, it's never going to happen. So I need you to take your scissors and cut out the words one day so that it just says, 'I will write a book.'" And Umar, that stuck on my vision board forever in my office. And I kept looking at that graphic day in and day out. And it was one of those things where I was driven towards it, but I didn't know if there was a demand. And over again, there were so many people after I would get off stage as a speaker saying, "Those were some of the most compelling stories I've ever heard. Do you have a book that has those stories in it?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm not really interested in doing this for, tons of money or selling a book or a product." And they said, "That's not what it's about. I want to relive those stories. I want to feel those stories again. I want to capture your energy in a bottle and learn how I can do that too." And after I started hearing more and more attendees of my talks saying, "I need this, I want this, I need this, I want this," well, eventually, it was this year when you reached out to me that I said, "You know what? I have to follow my own advice. I need to pull the trigger." And when you said, "I have the perfect idea or perfect title for your next book," that was a push in the direction from the universe telling me to do this. And well, the rest is history. So I guess I would say you were the spark to make that finally happen.
That's hilarious. And there's this concept called manifestation, and I know that's something that you're really into. And if I'm being completely honest, I've never really dive deeper into manifestation. But speaking of vision boards, about a year ago or just over a year ago, I had this vision board I did for the first time, and I wrote down a bunch of things that I wanted to accomplish for the year of 2024. I forgot about it, and just last week, actually just this week, a couple of days ago, I opened that vision board and I looked through all of the things that I had written, and 8 out of 10 of those things I have accomplished without even
I
realizing.
love it.
And I just feel like manifestation and just actually visualizing exactly what you want to achieve makes so much of a difference, because you're telling your subconscious mind that, like you said, it's not a matter of one day, it's a matter of I will do it. So it makes a really,
Yes.
really big difference.
It does. And you know what? People think that manifestation is this fluffy concept that doesn't actually exist. But I think it's just like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. We can't see it, but it's real. It's actually tangible. We do project the reality that we see in front of us. So the things we think about the most is what we will experience in this world. And I truly think that if you want to change your life, you literally have to focus on the things you want to change, and those things can and will happen. It takes action, but it will happen.
I love that, Marco. I love that. And that brings me to our second question, and kind of ties into having a vision and creating a vision board, but it's called the takeaway. And the takeaway is, what was the one key idea or lesson you hope readers take from your book? And obviously, there are a lot of different concepts that you speak about, but what is the
Sure.
overarching concept that you'd want your readers to learn from the book?
You know, I think about this question, and there is so many different angles you could take it from, but I guess the number one key lesson for me is that you can turn any challenge into an opportunity, and that you don't have to do it alone. You know, so many people think that they have to climb these mountains by themselves, but the biggest value I've learned in my life is actually to learn the skills and talents of the people who are around you, because so many of them actually want to see you succeed. And you know, all you have to do is ask. Just ask someone if they're interested in helping you to reach a goal or to overcome this particular challenge. They have skill sets that you can bring into your circle that are going to help you to do the things that you've been avoiding to do. And so I think that's the number one thing is don't look at something as a challenge, look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah, I love that, Marco. And one of my favorite quotes is, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take."
That's
And
right.
it's so relevant for everybody, because all we talk about is the bad things that happened to us, or the things that didn't happen to us, or the missed opportunities. But the reality is, we missed the opportunity because we didn't take action.
That's
It
right.
it wasn't because of Tom, Dick, or Harry. It was because of me. I didn't take that
Yep.
action. And
Yeah.
it's especially for young individuals. I consider you young still, but I'm a bit young.
Thank you.
But
Younger.
with your book, the one thing I did learn is you can do anything you put your mind to. Everything is possible.
It's actually all about how you approach it and using the right mindset. That's not to say that you don't have down days. I don't want anybody listening to this podcast thinking that it means that you can't have days where you don't feel your best. In fact, you might discover the best parts of yourself in the days where you feel the lowest. It's
Mhm.
how you come back from those low experiences that truly define who you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much for that, Marco. And that brings me to my last question for you. We call this the mission. How does
Hmm.
the book fit into your bigger mission or vision for the future? And I know with a lot of the things you do, like Back to the Future, and it's a movie you brought up to me a couple of times. So, how do
Only
you
a couple.
only a couple? But what's your future like? How does this book come into play in with your speaking, your accessibility consulting? How does all of that tie into what this book represents?
Well, Umar, as you know, the very first chapter of my book is how the future proves the past. And I actually think that that's the perfect way to tie this up into a little bow. It's that I don't believe that time is linear. And so everything that I've done in the future actually impacts what I'm doing today and the legacy that I'm leaving for tomorrow. And that's the way I look at my life is that this book is going to serve as a catalyst of not only helping change people approach the way they look at their own lives, but also the lessons that I can leave for my daughter as breadcrumbs even long after I'm no longer here. So the biggest takeaway for me is to know that forever some of these life lessons and the things I've experienced are etched into history for the rest of my life. And long after I'm gone, my daughter's going to be able to be a part of that legacy, look at those lessons, look at those teachings, and apply that to her own life and create a ripple effect for her future family, and so on and so forth. So, honestly, this book is going to be that thing that is almost like it's from the future, and it's still going to create these little nest eggs for many people who read it for years to come.
I love that, Marco. And you had mentioned, when we had started working, how important it is for you to be a father. And there was this story you told me, and it was about how you had assumed your daughter would look at you if she would have seen
Yeah.
father. Now, I think within that story, you told me she sees you as her superhero, and I think that's for all fathers, or parents, mothers as well. Their goal is obviously to be their children's best role model, and they obviously want their children to learn from not just the successes they've had, but the failures you've had as well.
A
And
a
that's
hundred
what the
percent.
book also explores.
Yeah, well, I always have said there's no win and lose, there's only win and learn, right? So it's all again in the mindset and how you look at it. Like failures are real and they do exist, but when you do fail, what have you learned from that circumstance? And just for context, people who may not know, I was actually born with a disability and I'm a wheelchair user. And so a lot of my fears around my daughter were the fact that because I'm not a typical able-bodied father, that she would see other strong and capable fathers and think, "Oh boy, my dad can't do the things that they can do." But as now been a father for almost 4 years with my daughter, my first child, I can tell you that she's going to make in her mind what makes me a superhero. And it's not the traditional things like being able to, work on cars or do all these manly things. It's what kind of role model am I being for her? And what does that say and the precedence that sets about what it means to be a true man in her life? And that's been really powerful because she doesn't care that I use a wheelchair. She just looks up at me and sees that I'm her dad. And it's been the greatest gift and joy of my life.
That's amazing, Marco, and thanks so much for sharing that story. I think it's something that our viewers and readers will learn a lot from, because the definition that we've created for men or women is just these are constructs that humans have created, and it's a generalization. Everybody is different, and we need to accept the fact that everybody is different. Everybody has a different way of thinking, a different way of doing. And at the end of the day, people learn from your actions, not the words that you're talking or saying. So I think that
Yeah.
makes a really big difference. But Marco, a lot of my friends call me sneaky, so I do want to fit in another bonus question here. But
Sure.
if you could put one life philosophy on a billboard, what do you think it would say?
Wow. To be honest, that's an easy one. And I really hope people take this and they think about it. It's know your values and know your value. I say this in the book, actually, but knowing your values and what you bring to the world is really, really important. And sort of how that reflects to your ideologies, how you see the world, how you want others to treat you. But knowing your value is also really important. It means don't sell yourself short. Don't let somebody say that because you're young or that you're inexperienced, that you have nothing to bring to the table. Know the value of the skill sets that you're already bringing there and make sure that regardless of any paycheck, any amount of money, anything that is tempting from someone, that it is in alignment with your values. If you do the right things and you attract the right people in your life, then you'll be on the right path. And you don't have to sell yourself out or anyone else out in order to become a millionaire, because at the end of the day, it's not always about the money, it's about the impact.
100%, Marco. 100%. It is about the impact. And unfortunately, for the youth nowadays, we don't really have the right role models for them. But something for them that's really, really important is focus on the impact, not on the money, not on what the money can get you, like the materialistic things like cars and watches and whatnot. I think if we shift our focus on the impact and how we can change the world, that would make a much bigger difference, and you're just able to achieve much more, because what you realize is when we say we want to help the world, that could literally mean just helping one person and then helping another and then helping a third person, and it's a ripple effect, it's a domino effect where you help one person, they'll help another person, and it's just you're making the world 1% better every day or every time you take action.
Yeah, it's not about the big actions, about what are you going to do to save the planet necessarily. It's what are you going to do that's going to help your neighbor today, right? And then your neighbor is going to help your community. Then your community is going to help your territory, and so on and so forth. It's the little things that make a big difference, and we might feel like small players in this in our countries and around the world, but the butterfly effect is real. And the way that we treat somebody that we interact with or that we see on the bus today may actually change something larger that we have no idea it's going to create that ripple effect. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's amazing, Marco. And thank you again so much for making the time to speak with me and for giving us the opportunity to share your story. If you'd just like to tell our viewers and our readers, where they could find some more information about you, where they could potentially buy your book from, and more
Sure.
importantly, where they can learn more about how to make impact, like you said, and how they could learn from your stories of how you actually took action on focusing on impact, not just because you say this a lot. You've said this to me at least a dozen times. Umar, it's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. I really just want
Nope.
impact. So I really love
I
that
love that.
about our conversations.
Yeah, well, at least you know I'm consistent and that I'm not actually changing my story, which is good. But thank you for asking. If people want to learn more about me, the easiest way that they could is by going to my website. It's myname.com, so marcopasqua.com. Maybe you can put up the graphic or something like this. And then from there, there's a button on my website to click Buy Marco's book. You can learn more. That's probably the best way that you can learn these lessons. And I'm not saying that to sell the book. I'm literally saying that there are step-by-step instructions on how to create that impact in the book. You can connect with me on all the different social media channels. I encourage anyone who's watching or listening to this podcast to also follow me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn. I legitimately am the person that you're hearing on this podcast today. I'm the exact same person in person, online. And that's the thing. Authenticity is key. Don't feel like you have to wear a mask on social media and be somebody that you're not. Nobody has time for bullshit. Nobody has time for inauthentic people. Just be yourself, make those connections, and you'll go a long way. And also, if you haven't done so already, make your first vision board. I'm telling you that it is tangible and it is real and it will change. Like you said, Umar, like you'll be able to actually see the things you've checked off the list, even if you weren't paying attention, because that constant subconscious of you reading those items you want to accomplish, if they're tucked away in a desk somewhere, you'll probably never achieve them. But if you're staring at them every single day, there's going to be something inside of you that's going to start to push you into place and have the dominoes all lined up. So absolutely go to my website, go to marcopasqua.com. Please buy the book. And once you've enjoyed it, please be willing to write a review. You can find it exclusively for the first 90 days on Amazon.com. And I think that I'll work with you and your team after that to actually expand it to other outlets as well, because I think that that would be great.
Absolutely, Marco. Thanks so much for making the time. And guys, from potential to purpose, my favorite book currently. Marco, thank you so much.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.